Morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Friday, December 16th, 2016.
Commissioner Rivas, Commissioner James, Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Jacinto. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Maria Martin, Bureau of Engineering.
Backwards today. We'll get that remedied.
Good morning, Hannah Choi, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Edgar Duncan, LA Street Services.
Mike Mullen, Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we do not have any speaker cards under general public comment, no commentary under the Neighborhood Council. We did receive a speaker card under item number 5 for today's agenda.
Okay, we'll close general public comment as well as the Neighborhood Council category of commentary. Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Wednesday, November 23rd, 2016? By Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll approve those meeting minutes. An administrative item to take care of, agenda item number 7. Specifications have been submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids. There are 4 projects. First one is in Council District 5 for the West Side Unit 2 series to multiple high voltage conversion street lighting project for fiscal year 2016-2017. The estimate is $2,072,500. The bid receipt date is Wednesday, January 25th, 2017. In Council District 11, for the West Los Angeles Playa del Rey series to multiple high voltage conversion street lighting project for the fiscal year 2016-17. The estimate, $2,063,500. The bid receipt date also on Wednesday, January 25th, 2017. The third project is in Council Districts 2, 4, 6, 7, and 12 for the broadhead tree trimming for street lighting illumination in the parkways of Rhodes Avenue from Ventura Boulevard to Laurel Terrace Drive and certain other streets. The estimate's $453,600. The bid receipt date on this one is Wednesday, January 18th, 2017. And the final one is in Council Districts 8, 13, and 14 for the broadhead tree trimming for street lighting illumination in the parkways of Hoover Street from 35th Street to 30th Street and certain other streets. The estimate's $392,700. And the bid receipt date is Wednesday, January 18th, 2017. Is there a second to my motion that we adopt agenda item number 7 forthwith by Commissioner Jacinto? Any objection? Without objection, and Commissioner Davis. Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 7. Any issue sending 7 forthwith? All right, we will do so. Agenda item number 1 from the Bureau of Engineering in Council District 13. A task for solicitation number 7 to Frank R. Webb Architects Incorporated, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to issue a revision of the task for solicitation number 7 to Frank R. Webb Architects Incorporated, increasing the budget authority from $800,000 to $820,000 for architectural design services for the Hollywood Recreational Center Phase 1 pool and the pool building. Sashi Bakta. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, President James, Commissioners, Bureau Executives, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. This task order, the increase that we are asking for is to cover the cost of reimbursement for a standard reimbursable items that the consultants normally would request the payments for. In the initial design proposals, only the design fees were provided and the reimbursable expenses were not. So up to now, we have been paying out of the available funds, and now we are at the point where we are ready to close the contract, and then we have exceeded slightly to account for the reimbursable expenses. So we need to increase the budget for that, And along with it, during the construction, project has a mural that's supposed to be posted on the pool building. And because of a few of the changes and the Department of Recreation Parks, Department of Cultural Affairs, and the artist having issues with the maintenance, that portion was deferred from the construction. So we made interim provisions to allow the mural to be affixed at a later date. And as a result, we are asking additional funds to bring in our consultants should the services require to evaluate and provide any technical assistance that the artists may need while they're installing the mural. And that is why we are asking for the increase of the fees. So it is combined in the $20,000 that we are asking.
Any questions at all? Commissioner Jacinto on number 1.
Thank you, President James. Thank you for the report. Anytime we can have public art as part of our facilities, including this pool, is a good idea. So I don't have any problem with the additional work that we need to work with the artist. Right. Do they have a design for the mural? Yeah.
Yes. The general theme is coming from the holly flowers, petals floating on the water. Wow. And if I may just share the small drawings that I have. This is the building. You see the floral pattern, and that's where it is going. And there is the details of this. I'll just pass that along.
Beautiful. Is that a painting or is that a multimedia mural?
It will be images projected on a ceramic tile.
On ceramic tile. Excellent.
And then it'll be custom made. So once the fees are authorized, then the fabrications of these tiles will start.
Beautiful, Sashi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further on agenda item number 1? Commissioner Jacinto has enthusiastically made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 1. Seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? With that objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Any issue sending it forthwith? We will send number 1 forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2, also from the Bureau of Engineering in Council District 11, task for solicitation number 05-159C, Mars Services Incorporated, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to issue a revision of the task for solicitation number 05-159C to Mars Services, increasing the budget authority from $1,202,056.17 to $1,317,856.17 for design services for the Potrero Canyon project. Pedro Garcia on number 2.
Good morning. My name is Pedro Garcia. I'm with the Bureau of Engineering in the Geotechnical Engineering Group. First off, I'd like to give you a little bit of a background summary on the project since it's been around for a little while. The Potrero Canyon project is going to construct a 46-acre park in the Pacific Palisades. The project began in the mid-1980s and has been put on hold multiple times due to lack of funding. In 2005, the Bureau of Engineering the Bureau of Engineering was requested to restart the project. In August 2011, Mars Services was retained as our design consultant. Due to various unforeseen conditions, there was a revised TOS issued in 2014. The city proposes to do a lot of grading in the canyon. Part of the grading is going to encroach into Caltrans property. The city originally planned to acquire the land, the Caltrans land, rather than encroach into it. After going over the project with our real estate group, it was realized that would severely delay the project to acquire the land. So instead, we decided to obtain an encroachment permit to build the slope within Caltrans property. The plans were submitted to Caltrans, and Caltrans had extensive review comments, which we now need to incorporate into our design plans. Our board report is requesting additional funds for our design consultant to go ahead and incorporate those comments, resubmit the plans to Caltrans, and also to incorporate any secondary review comments if needed. There is also as part of the project, there's also going to be a pedestrian bridge installed that's going to link the existing bike path along Pacific Coast Highway to the park. As part of this board report, we're asking for additional funding for a feasibility study for that bridge. So that bridge is going to be a separate project, but the feasibility study is going to be under this TOS. A few years ago, when the El Nino storms were rolling in, Rec and Parks asked us to install erosion control measures. Since that was kind of unforeseen, we expended some of the funding for Mars to do, construction support. We expended those funds to do the erosion control, so we're asking for the funds to be reinstated with this board report.
Okay, there's an indication in the letter that we sent to Mars back in October that we're talking about final design here. So is this that?
Yes.
Okay. Anything further? Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you. Pedro, I appreciate the breakdown of the additional request, the erosion, pedestrian, and the response to Caltrans, so that deconstruction of that is appreciated. So thank you.
Anything further? Commissioner Jacinto's made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 2. I'll second it along with Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Any issue sending number 2 forthwith? We will send number 2 forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 3 from the Bureau of Sanitation, a task order solicitation number A3-16-03. This is a notice of award to DCSC Incorporated, recommending that the board authorize the Director of the Bureau of Sanitation or his designee to issue a notice of award to DCSC Incorporated from the pre-qualified on-call consultant list to provide on-site geographic information system support. The term of the project task order will be 2 years with an optional 1-year extension for the cost ceiling not to exceed $1,106,838. Jennifer Jaronka.
Good morning, President Kevin James and Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Ann Haranka from the Bureau of Sanitation, GIS, Geographic Information Systems. We are requesting for GIS support for 2 years with an optional 1-year extension, a ceiling not to exceed $1,106,838. For clarification, that was $1,106,838. This is a task order solicitation for staff augmentation that is required to primarily support the Clean Stat program, Clean Streets, MyLA 311 franchise, and each of the Bureau's GIS-centric projects. The TOS was sent out to 6 pre-qualified on-call consulting firms. 3 proposals were received. DCSE as a primary, with the Marcus Group as a subcontractor, was selected based on the criteria of specialized experience, technical competence, approach to work, record of past performance, and cost. DCSE and the Marcus Group is a 40% WEB, CB, EB. Thank you.
Any questions? You got a lot going on over there at Sanitation with the implementation of the franchise and Clean Streets and everything else that's listed in here. So I don't really have any questions on this right now. We'll see how this cooks out later. Commissioner Davis.
The MBE participation on this project is what?
The WEB, CB, EB is 40% from Marcos.
40% because of the WBE.
Okay, gotcha. And emerging business enterprises is 40%, correct? That's good. That's emerging business. EB is emerging.
Any idea how much of this is going to be broken down between the MyLA 311 system and the franchise system, or is it even possible to do that?
Breaking down in terms of work, we have, the forecast is for GIS staff, and that would be broken down into both wastewater, stormwater, and solid support. So it would be broken down 50-50.
Okay, among those.
Yes.
All right. Anything further?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm glad to see our effort of participation in these various areas, and I look forward to us continuing in that trend and pattern in the future, and hope that we will, through the process, be able to also in the future be able to result some outcomes in some of the other areas that we were not able to reach, specifically in this project, but in other projects as well. So I thank you for that particular effort, and I have greater expectations that we will reach and touch some of the other areas of inclusion as well.
Anything further? Commissioner Rivas.
To also, I'm very impressed with the level of participation. 40%, I was looking at what your anticipated levels were, and they were 1%. So just, I think this is great, and yeah, I look forward to seeing more of this.
Thank you. Is that a motion, Commissioner Rivas? All right. Seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number, what are we on? Number 3. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send number 3 forthwith. Thank you, ma'am. Agenda item number 4, a memorandum of agreement, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and the Bureau of Sanitation, recommending that the board first approve and authorize the director of the Bureau of Sanitation or his designee with the concurrence of the mayor to execute the memorandum of agreement between the Bureau of Sanitation and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power for the Stormwater Management Handbook for Public Right-of-Way Projects. Costa Caporis. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, President. Good morning, Board Commissioners, Bureau representatives, and everybody here. This is assistance that is provided to us by the Department of Water and Power to implement this handbook and this related work for the development of public right-of-way, low-impact development techniques for implementing stormwater mitigation within the right-of-way. About 3 weeks ago, I was here to and obtain your approval to initiate this work with our consultant team. The total work would be $610,000. DWP is providing $300,000 of that, and DWP not only is providing the funding, it would be one of the agencies that would be affected and would be regulated through this. So we're very grateful to DWP and Rafael Villegas, who is here and has been cooperating with us. And also we intend to work with other departments on this effort, like the Bureau of Street Services, Bureau of Engineering, and other affected agencies and city departments.
While the board report provides some of the information, some more detail regarding the handbook, would you just talk about it for the oral record for us?
Yeah, this is in response. It was initiated about 2 years ago by Commissioner Fuentes, who the council made the motion to seek to balance work that we're already requiring on a parcel base, like private developers when they build a facility or a building. They are required to mitigate stormwater runoff. Now we're trying to expand that requirement to on public works projects on the city's right-of-way. So we are looking at developing a handbook that will guide the requirements on mitigating stormwater runoff every time there is work on city streets, alleys, and other areas within the city's right of way. So this work in cooperation with our consultants will have the guidance, there would be a handbook, there would be BMPs that would be applicable, and overall there will be a process with affected department and agencies to develop this guidance and the city ordinance that will also follow.
Is it fair to say, and the reason I'm asking these questions is because of a couple of email inquiries that were sent by DWP ratepayer advocates from various, at least one neighborhood council. And so would it be fair to say that the work of the skeptics would say that, well, this is a handbook that we're going to spend this money on, and it's going to go on a shelf. But the response to that is, it's called a handbook here, but what we are doing is creating best practices for dealing with some of these important public safety and environmental issues.
Absolutely.
Speaking broadly.
Absolutely. I mean, we are already regulating private development projects, and we're requiring to capture, infiltrate, or at the minimum treat the runoff before they leave the site. It's only fair that we will do our part along city streets. So whether we're modifying a street or building a new street, we need to have the same requirement. So this is not to develop the handbook, this is to develop requirements for the city and other agencies that do work on the city's right of way to manage stormwater runoff. And when there is a construction project, whether it's on a parcel, on a private property, or on a public property, this is a good opportunity to build an infiltration trench or a dry well, or put a planter box to manage the stormwater runoff. It's the optimum timing.
And just in response to some of those inquiries, to the extent they may be listening in, the actual memorandum of agreement itself provides a nice explanation of the background and the reason for the handbook. And I don't know that calling it a handbook per se might have been, we could have maybe been more descriptive of the importance of it, because what happens if somebody doesn't read the details and they see that we're creating a handbook, they're thinking that we're just creating something with a nice cover to put on a shelf, and that's not what's happening here at all. There's been a bit of work, including significant work at the City Council leading up to the point that this policy and best practice will be put into place.
Correct, and I think on the scope of work we have with our consultant, we have a little broader definition. I think on this MOU, even though in the title it says handbook, I think in the narrative it defines and describes it more broadly.
Thank you. Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you, President James. Costa, thank you for the report. I look at it as a manual for implementation, for guidelines, and that are going to be followed. And I'm hoping that we're going to use this to monitor the projects in the public right away. Is it correct to say that this also will help our One Water initiative?
Absolutely. We view this as part of our overall stormwater management, and stormwater is part of water, so and our One Water effort, and this is identified also in the One Water documents also.
Excellent. And this is the work that is being done by Geosyntec, correct?
Is the primary consultant. They have a number of sub-consultants under there.
Very good. Costa, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything further? Okay. Costa, I'm going to send you, I'm going to forward an email to you that I'll have you chat with me about a response for that email, since you're the best person to respond to that.
Sure.
Okay?
Glad to.
Commissioner Jacinto has made a motion. I'll second it. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 4. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send number 4 forthwith. Thank you, sir. Agenda item number 5, requested acceptance of a contract, Council District 11, Bureaus of Contract Administration and Bureau of Engineering, Westchester Streetscape Improvement, also known as the Sepulveda Boulevard Sidewalks, 84th Place to 80th Street. Recommending that the board first accept the contract. Secondly, assess Future DB International Incorporated with a penalty in the amount of $27,953.46 for the unauthorized subcontractor substitutions of 2 bid-listed DBE subcontractors. 3, assess Future DB International with a penalty in the amount of $9,425 for withholding prompt payment, including retention to 1 bid-listed DBE subcontractor. And 4, instruct the Director of the Office of Accounting to disencumber the recommended city penalty in the amount of $26,888.97 from the project fund and collect the remaining funds in the amount of $10,489.49 from Future DB International Incorporated. Reference in the agenda that this is a federal project. Ms. McGlinchey, let's start with you, setting us up with the background and the Bureau recommendation. Before we go to 1 or 2, it appears on the speaker card, speakers representing the contractor that is protesting the assessment of the penalty.
Good morning. Linda McGlinchey, Bureau of Contract Administration. Yes, we are recommending penalties regarding 2 bid-listed DBE subcontractors, the first being Tree Smith Enterprises, who was bid-listed to perform tree removal work totaling $27,880. Staff verified that they performed $15,640, which means that the contractor may be assessed a penalty of $12,240, which is the difference between the pledged and achieved dollar amounts. The contractor was notified of this potential penalty and stated that Tree Smith was listed to, or the subcontract with them was to remove 20 tree stumps from the existing sidewalk area. However, Tree Smith was listed on the Exhibit 15G, which is a requirement of the funding for the contract items of partial clearing and grubbing, stump grinding, and tree stumps from the existing sidewalk. Per the contract specifications, DBEs must perform work as listed on the Exhibit 15G. The city does not pay for work listed on the Exhibit 15G unless it is performed by the listed DBE or an authorized substitute, and this is all per the federal regulations. So as a result, since we did not give any sort of approval for a change, we are recommending a penalty of $12,240 be assessed for this unauthorized subcontractor substitution. The second subcontractor is Hardy Landscape Construction, which was bid listed to perform landscaping work totaling $148,100. They completed $132,286.54, which is a difference and a recommended penalty of $15,713.46. Again, the contractor was informed of this, and they stated that the plant establishment and maintenance was not performed as required by the contract, and that they had to perform this work on the behalf of the subcontractor and deducted that amount from Hardy's payment. Additionally, they said that another check that they had written to Hardy was voided due to back charges that they assessed that subcontractor. However, just as the other subcontractor, they are required to utilize them fully per the 15G, and the only exception would be a city-approved reduction. But anyone else performing that work, we will not be subject to the reimbursement from from the federal government for that.
Would you repeat that, Ms. McGlinchey, again?
Yes, when someone else performs the work of a bid-listed DBE subcontractor, the city's contract states that we will not pay for that work, and that is because we will not get reimbursed for that work in our federal funding reimbursement.
Okay.
So in addition to that, we have an issue that there is no documentation approving a reduction in Hardy's amount, and that Hardy has yet to be paid the total amount they invoiced. As previously stated, that check had been voided. So the contractor may be assessed an additional penalty for prompt payment of funds withheld to subcontractors. We informed the contractor, and future DB stated their reason for not paying was that the City of LA had not released future DBE's final payment retention, and they were attempting to argue that that was a violation of the Prompt Payment Act. However, what the city is withholding from their payment is at this point considered disputed funds. It's not their actual, it's not a prompt payment issue, it's not their retention, it's disputed funds because we have these penalty recommendations. Additionally, the way the feds look at it, once the work of that sub is completed, that's when the clock starts in terms of prompt payment penalties to those subs. Any retention that the city is withholding from the prime is the prime's retention, not those subs. So with that said, specifically our contract and the bid proposal documents state that the prime contractor shall return all monies withheld in retention from a subcontractor within 90 days after receiving payment of work satisfactorily completed. Any delay or postponement of payment over 30 days may take place only for good cause and with the city's prior written approval. Any violation shall subject the violating contractor to penalties of up to $25 per subcontractor per calendar day. Hardy's work was completed and accepted on March 11th, 2015, and the amount of $92,385.63 was released to future DB on March 24th, 2015. More than 377 days have passed since the date of the last payment to Hardy. Therefore, staff is recommending that a penalty of $9,425 be assessed with regards to prompt payment.
Do we have any discretion, Ms. McGlinchey or Mr. Jordan, on assessing that prompt payment penalty? Is there regarding our ability to obtain the reimbursement funds from the federal government?
The board has discretion, but yes, it may affect not only the reimbursement, it may also affect our ability to get future funding.
Okay. Would the answer be the same in connection with the penalty the recommended penalty assessment that you described earlier of the 20 some odd $1,000, $27,953.46 for the two bid listed DBE subcontractors too?
For those two DBE subcontractors, the city's not going to get that money. That will be taken out of our reimbursement.
Because
they did not perform the work.
So we're not getting that money back. So the only way to get that money back is to assess the penalty.
Yes.
But if we don't assess the penalty, does that potentially affect our ability to get future projects or reimbursement from the federal government?
Yes.
So discretion is really just a word here, it sounds like to me. Okay, thank you, Ms. McGlinchey. So we have, I've got one speaker card, but it looks like I've got two potential speakers, and I'm going to let you all decide how you want to present your case. I've got Sam Cadby from FutureDB, and looks like a counsel, an attorney with a last name that I can't really read, so but a first name that I can, Ivan. So whether Mr. Cadby or Ivan, if you want to both speak, you can, but one at a time. I don't want two people at the podium. Sure. So just one of you. Okay.
I'm Sam Cat.
Okay, so who's going to speak first?
Sam Catby. I'm the president of FutureDB.
Okay, so we'll hear from you. I don't put a time limit on real parties and interest, but once you start to repeat yourself, then I'll start to interrupt.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. After you've reviewing the report that we received from contract compliance issues, I'd like to state several facts that were missed out on the report. And I'm going to start with the company first. As FutureDB is a small business general contractor, obtained this contract with the city of Los Angeles about 2.5 years ago, or just about 2 years ago. FutureDB did comply with all the requirements of the contract, completed its work. There were some delays throughout the project due to the city's inability to obtain water meter for the plantations. That was almost the major part of the contract, and there were a lot of delays on the project. However, we reached a compromise with the project manager at the end of the job that with some issues with some concrete work versus the delays that we were going to be we're going to get a complete sign-off on the project without filing any complaints or any claims, without issuing any change order for that compensable time. There was a time extension granted without compensation, and that was a verbal agreement between the project manager and the city's representative.
Was it your feeling then that that issue was resolved?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
However, when we asked for our retention after the notice of completion has been filed, there was an issue with the compliance officer on the project, and there was an indication that there could be some assessment against FutureDB, which we disputed at the time. And when we asked about the explanation, they said, well, contract compliance is overwhelmed and that it's going to take them time before they go through the files. And obviously that's a true statement. The job was completed in June 2015, or actually March of 2015, and here we are talking about it in December of 2016. The initial assessment that came in was in August of 2016. That was when we first were learned that there was assessments regarding DBEs and regarding non-paid subcontractors and all of these issues. We have a couple of points regarding the two subcontractors that we believe has been misstated as non-listed subcontractors. Number one, Tree Smith was our subcontractor who was listed on two items. Item number 3, which was a partial grinding of stems, and item number 8, which was removal of 20 trees. At the time of the bid, we received the quotations. We know that there were some items that he had to grind on item number 3. We didn't know the extent of it. However, in his quotation, he stated that he estimated to be 23 stems to be grinded. And there were 20 trees that needed to be removed, which we confirmed. So we listed the subcontractors. You know, during the bid, you don't really qualify the quantities. It's whatever you get, you list. However, line item number 3 was a clear and grub by square footage. It was about 31,000 square feet of clear and grub. Clear and grub, it complies of bushes and plantations and several other items. So it doesn't have trees in it, it just have bushes. That item was assumed to be done by future DB. So therefore, we listed Tree Smith as partial on the bid item number 3 when we had the bid. Now, as we went ahead with the work was for the amount of $53,915 altogether for that line item, which future DB and its sub completely finished. When time for the billing came, Tree Smith only had three stems to be grinded out of this whole area. It was not 23 as he had stated in his quotations. It was just merely a quotation. So he was not the only listed sub for that line item. It was a work that comprised of our work and his work. He, on his own, estimated to be 23 stems, and actually it was only 3, and the rest of the items were covered by us. We removed everything. Now, according to the city, they came back to us and they said, well, you were supposed to give us a change order for the 20 other stems. However, there was no other stems to be removed in there other than the clear and grub, which was a square foot unit price. It was not even a line item to remove the stubs. It was an estimate for us, and usually general contractors, they estimated, okay, I have a 31,000 square feet, it's $2 a square foot, it's $53,000. So it was not broken down like this is how much we have for the sub or this is how much for future DB. So the item was completed, it was done by future DB. Whatever Tree Smith asked for, he was given, and Tree Smith was paid in full for the 20 trees that was listed on item number 8, and he was paid for the 3 stumps that he grinded on site. So and we have a final unconditional release from him. So that, as far as we are concerned, future DB did the work, and that line item was completely covered, and Tree Smith got exactly what they did work for. So we feel that it is unfair for the city to assess us for 20 stumps that were not even grinded on the site. It doesn't exist. However, the plans did not show that as 20 stumps or 23 stumps. It showed an area that needed to be cleared and grubbed. It was his choice to put a number that maybe he miscounted or whatever. But to come back to future DB and say, hey, you did not pay him for the rest of these items, well, those items did not exist under his contract. So even with that, if you look at the percentage of compliance for the DBEs, even taking the 12,000 out and even Hardee's, we are still in full compliance with the rate, with the percentage that was intended in the contract. I think it was 21%. Future DB complied with 26%, even after the deductions the city had intended to remove. So it's not a compliance issue. It is a guess by the city that we short paid that subcontractor. We did not. We did pay him exactly what he asked for and exactly for the work he did. And we are, as a general contractor, did the part that we were supposed to do on that line item. And I don't see why the city would come back and penalize us for paying for something that was not even there. And it's not even his dues. And he didn't even ask for. That's line number 1. On Hardee Landscape was the contractor, the landscape contractor for this project. He performed the work, and again, due to the reason of the water meter being there and not there, delays of 2 months to get the water company to come out and hook it up. For some reason, he didn't have enough manpower to come back and do the final stage, which is the maintenance of that contract. And at the time, we had several contacts with him. Some of them went and answered. Some of them, he said, I'm not going to come back and do it. So there were remaining work that we needed to finish in order for us to get the notice of completion. So here comes the dilemma. Should we go and call the city and say, well, there is this amount of work that needed to be done. We're going to have to go and through the process of substitution. We're going to have to call for bids, and we're going to have to do this and go to hearings and so on and so forth. Or actually perform the maintenance and so the plants won't die. So we went ahead and we performed the work on his behalf, which is a normal contract relationship between a general contractor and subcontractors. There's a lot of times that you have disputes between you and subcontractor. He provides wrong material, he does this and does that, and you back charge him for it. So this is not really an intention of, avoid going to the process or try to sidetrack the process, but it was something that we had to do right away and implement, otherwise your plants would die. And then guess who's going to be responsible for? It's me. You're going to come back at me and say, what happened? So we took on the position of taking over and replant whatever they needed to replant, which was very minor, and start watering the plants and making sure that the sprinkler works and everything works on his behalf. That was the end of the story at that time, and we were expecting our retention to come back, which is the $26,000. Lo and behold, we kept being delayed by the city. Okay, we haven't had time to get to it, and so on and so forth. And there they come back and they say, well, we're going to assess you for non-payment of retention to the Hardy Landscape, which is about $15,000 for unfinished business. Well, as far as the city is concerned, between me and Hardy Landscape, my contract with him is $141,100. I paid him $132,000. I owe him $15,000, which I'm not disputing between me and the city, but the work has been completed for the entire contract. It was not work that was deducted from the contract. It was work completed as per plans and specs. So therefore, the liability is still upon future DB to pay him. However, this money was held in retention because my contract with that subcontractor states it's 10% retention. For some issues that could be related to back charges, I know for landscaping, a lot of times that subject arises. So I do not dispute the $15,000 owed to him, but as soon as I get my retention, I would release that money to him. That money never came from the city. It never came for Treesmith, it never came for him, never came for anybody, including my money. So the $26,000, which is the 5% the city held, was supposed to pay that retention to my subcontractors. Now the city comes back, they said, why didn't you pay your retention to the subs? Well, I didn't, first of all, the city deducted the money without letting me know how much they're going to deduct, what's their assessment, until August of 2016. So how do you expect me to know, why should I pay my retention, their retention to the subs before I get my retention? My contract state with all of my subs, final payment is pending the final payment received by the general contractor, which is me. City never processed that payment to future DB. And city never informed future DB of how much money they're going to be deducting for Treesmith, which was the initial issue. This Hardy Landscape came all the way at the end. Because you didn't pay your retention, we're assessing you from the date that they completed the work. Well, I know that we completed the work. We have a notice of completion, and by law, the city should have released my retention within 90 days of the notice of completion. That never happened. They could have said at that time, we have $26,000, we're going to hold this much money for your possible assessment had they processed my paperwork at that time. And then I would have paid everybody except the disputed amount that's actually is not disputed because Treesmith actually got paid in full. There was no issue with Tree Smith whatsoever. The city withheld the 12,000. In addition, they held the 26,000 in anticipation of any issues that might arise a year and a half later. I feel that is completely unfair. I'm a small business. On a $500,000, how much do you think I made money? I lost my shirt on the job. That job went on for 3 months of time extension that I paid for. I had my staff just sitting there waiting for the water meter to come in because I cannot plant any plantations without the water being there. And yet, I get also penalized for issues that's not even an issue. If you release my retention today, tomorrow Hardy Landscape will get his retention. Or I even asked the city, I told them, don't take my word for it. Cut him the check from the money. I don't have a problem. I'm even waiving my back charges for all of these items just for the sake of getting rid of this subject. Now, the city is asking me to pay $10,000 out of my pocket in addition to taking all of my money. I didn't know that the city of Los Angeles is in the business of putting people out of business. This $30,000 is about 10% of my capital. So if you take that away from me, you are putting me on the track of going out of business. It's as simple as that. For no reason whatsoever. I have not done anything wrong. That's my word.
Thank you, sir.
I have nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McGlinchey? So before I get to specific, well, let's deal with Hardy Landscape first. Regarding the retention issue, the issue of whether the prime is required to pay off the sub while we hold retention, why do we require that the primes pay the subs and not force the subs to share in the risk of retention funds?
That has to do with going back historically when the USDOT DBE's program was revamped in 1999. The whole prompt payment issue came up because you would have a project that could be easily 2 years. A DBE subcontractor doing demolition work at the beginning of the contract, their retention would be held until the contract was ended 2 years later. Even though their work was completed, there was no question about the quality. It had been paid in full. When we make our progress payments and do those bid item payoffs paid in full, that is our acceptance of that work. So back then, you would have those subs, a demolition sub, waiting 2 years for their retention. And so the federal government specifically put in these prompt payment clauses, which we have to include. And our federally funded contracts, our bid proposals, clearly state that the prime is to issue the exact same clauses or requirements in their subcontracts as well. So they can't choose to have a subcontract that says, I'm going to withhold 10% of your retention until I'm paid in full at the end. That's a violation of the federal regs.
So even they may write that contract as was described, but as you just said, that provision of their contract is a violation of the federal regs.
Yes.
Okay, so the federal regulations require that the subs receive those retention funds. And in other words, if you're going to be a prime and bid on a federally funded project, the federal regulations require that the prime be the one to incur the risk of the retention funds.
Yes. Basically, when we're paying off those bid items in total, that payment is their payment in full.
Okay.
We're withholding retention from the prime. That retention has nothing to do with their subcontractors.
Okay. Regarding the time from March 2015, the end of the project, to August 2016, which the Prime indicated was the time that they first learned about the amount of the retention, or the amount of funds that the city was being retained, or maybe even the reason therefore. When the city is holding funds back, during that period of time, what was the total of funding that the city held back? Was it the amount that's on our page here?
We, as we go through and get information on subcontractors, we will release money.
Progress payments along the way?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any progress payments made between March of 2015 and August of 2016?
That I could not say.
Okay. The answer was no. Okay. So the money that the city held, they knew for those 15 months how much was being held.
Yes.
Had we given them the reason for withholding during that 15-month period?
That I cannot say for certain, but I do believe that there was communication with the Prime in that in order to come up with the recommendations, we were requiring certain information, and as we receive it, that's how we process it. But yes, they knew exactly how much was being withheld per their progress payments.
Okay. Were there any inquiries during that period of time that the Bureau of Contract Administration received regarding the reason for the withholding of the payments?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm relatively sure that there were inquiries, and we would give them a status.
Okay, and
I couldn't go into detail.
Okay, so let's assume there were inquiries. And the status that would be provided back, I'm assuming if you're getting inquiries from this Prime, you're probably getting inquiries from other Primes as well.
Yes.
The reason that this took the 15 months that has been demonstrated between the March 15 or 16 months between March of 2015 and August of 2016. Is that based on what? Backlog, workload, federal projects take longer, all the above?
All of the above.
And do federal projects take longer?
Most definitely, because, and I can't speak for certain regarding this particular one, but the federal projects require monthly utilization reports. Oftentimes at the end of a project, when we're reviewing the file, we find them missing. And so it's not just asking for all the paperwork that they normally have to do, the final utilization report, etc., but the monthly utilization report. And although the payments shown on the monthly utilization report should add up to the total payments that they're claiming to have made on the final utilization report for their subcontractors, more often than not, there's a discrepancy between the two amounts. So then we have to work with the contractor to figure out where that discrepancy occurs and have the contractor resubmit the paperwork so that it's consistent.
And when contractors bid on a federal project like this, are they given a set of the federal requirements?
Yes, it's all included in the bid proposal package. Additionally, after award, there's a pre-construction meeting where all of this is discussed, including the potential penalties and the whole substitution process.
What was the budget on this project?
This project, the contract was executed in the amount of $574,118.26. After 6 change orders were issued, increasing the contract amount by $13,661.10. The total cost of the project was $587,779.36.
Regarding maybe it was rhetorical, but the question that was presented by the Prime on the Hardy issue of, well, if you release the funds, we'll pay them. What should we have done? How would you answer the what should we have done question?
Again, that goes back to the funds he's talking about releasing was his retention, not Hardy's. And
Hardy, so the federal regulations require that Hardy be paid.
yes.
And is that clear in the the federal regulation documentation provided to primes when they bid on federal projects?
I would say yes, because there's a whole paragraph, 2 paragraphs specifically on prompt payment, both for progress payments as well as final retention.
Okay. One reason I asked that question is I think it's a fair inquiry as to if the penalty regarding the Hardy non-payment includes the 15 or 16 months that the Bureau of Contract Administration takes to reconcile a federal project contract, when the city is taking that time, should a prime be required to pay a penalty if the subs are not paid during that time? And I think the answer, my impression is that the answer is provided in the federal regulations. When the federal regulations require that you pay the subs, they're saying that they're not going to put it on the back of the sub the time that the city, or any city, not just the city of LA, any city that is getting federal reimbursement for their municipal projects, that requirement's going to be on the books of the prime and not on the books of the sub. That's my interpretation of it. Is that your interpretation of it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Mr. Jordan, would it be your interpretation of it?
Yes, and primes knowing this, all have the opportunity to bid accordingly, both from the total cost and a cash flow standpoint.
Right, okay.
And I'd just like to add, anytime staff gets an inkling that that's what the prime is doing, we are proactively reminding them of those facts, and that is their retention, not their subs, and that it will subject them to potential prompt payment penalties.
Okay, and that information was passed along here?
That I couldn't say for sure, because I don't know the exact timeline as far as those months. But like I said, if the prime let us know that they were withholding money waiting for their retention, that's our immediate automatic response.
Right, but if they don't let you know, there's no way for you to let them know.
Right.
Okay. Regarding the tree smith issue on the stumps, so you heard the presentation from the prime on that issue regarding the 3 versus the 23. And it sounds like there were 3 stumps, so they paid them for the 3 stumps. Tree Smith is not disputing that apparently, but this 20 stumps that was recategorized, the prime did the work on that. How does the Bureau of Contract Administration, do they view that? Does the Bureau of Contract Administration view that as an improper substitution of the prime doing work that the sub was listed to do?
In terms of clearing and grubbing, yes, because they listed them on their 15G for a partial for that work, and that was what came to that full amount, which we then in turn submitted to Caltrans as part of our proof of qualifying for funding. So in their bid proposal, as well as our submissions for our federal reimbursement, since Caltrans basically does all of that for the US DOT, we're saying that this sub is getting paid this amount. So unless there is...
And we're relying on their documentation.
Correct.
We're relying on the prime's bid to do that, correct?
Correct. And so unless there is a change order deducting some of that sub's work, that is the expectation.
And so I think you answered my next question, which I wrote down here, what is the prime's remedy when they see the discrepancy between, as they described it, the 3 stumps and the 23 stumps and the clear and grub versus the removal of the stumps? And the remedy is change order?
Mm-hmm.
And change order is submitted to the Bureau of Contract Administration for approval?
It would be worked through with Bureau of Engineering, approved, and then we would then be able to credit them, if you will, for that work being deleted from the sub.
Okay, and was that submitted? Was there a
No,
requested change
there was
order?
no evidence of that.
And is that what has resulted in the recommended penalty?
Correct.
Okay. And just a couple of more questions. I'm clear on what's happened here now from both sides. What I would like to be explained to me, what risk does the city face if we want to provide an accommodation? I'm less concerned about the accommodation for the penalty living through the 15 months because of what the federal regulations are and the notification of any prime when you bid on a federal project of what your requirements are. But what is the risk to the city of providing an accommodation based on the tree smith issue on the stumps versus the clear and grub?
So I believe the way the federal government would look at it, tree smith, the thing is, while the prime may have wanted to do all that clear and grub work themselves because they had promised tree smith work within that area and they had promised them X amount of dollars, the expectation would be that they would fulfill that. So in turn,
could the argument have been made that by cutting the sub out that somehow they didn't meet their subcontracting minimums?
Well, no. In this case, it's just in terms of what was pledged to that DBE sub.
Okay, go ahead.
So based on that, as I previously said, the city will not get reimbursed that $12,240 with regards to tree smith.
The how much?
$12,240, which is the difference between what they were listed for and what they actually were paid.
Okay. Beyond and can you get me from the $12,000 that you just referenced on the record to the $33,000, recognizing that you got $12,000 in change plus $9,000 in change on Hardy, right? That's 21-ish?
Well, Hardy's...
I know it's in the board report, but go
Hardy's penalty is actually $15,713. That's the difference between what they were paid and what they were listed for.
Okay, so it's the 15 plus the 12.
Yes.
Okay, that's the 27 that that you're recommending.
Correct. And then the $9,425 is the prompt payment.
Is the penalty.
Right.
Okay. So we've got 15 to Hardy, 12 to the tree smith, and 9 for the penalty.
Yes.
Okay. And 15 is what? Okay, I got it. Commissioner Davis?
We heard the testimony of the prime contractor. In his testimony, was there any new information that he shared that you were unaware of representing Con Ed?
No.
Now, there were some gaps in terms of notification to them. Obviously, we do a briefing and we give all of the technical information to all of the prime contractors. And yet, he seemed to have described that there were some times in which he wasn't informed by us. And I think that you have said in some of one or two occasions you weren't sure, cannot really verify, in fact, that we had communicated with the prime contractor on a couple of items.
During the acceptance process, but he had been forewarned of all of those items, and in terms of knowing how much money was being withheld, he knew exactly how much was being withheld per each progress payment.
He had been forewarned when? When had he been forewarned in our briefing?
Well, with the bid proposal documents, in the pre-construction meeting before they ever started work, they go through a whole list regarding the DBE subcontractor participation, what the potential penalties are, the fact that we will not pay for work performed by anyone other than the listed DBE, and the prompt payment penalties.
Now, he did say that they did the work themselves, and yet, in addition to that, he also paid the subcontractor. He mentioned 136,000. He owes them 141. So, in fact, he didn't withhold their money. He did give them all the money he has, and he still owes a supplemental amount of money to them. I'm not sure where we are in terms of our understanding of his payment out to the subcontractor.
His payment is based on the documentation he gave us.
Okay, so did he give us in the documentation we received the fact that he paid $136,000 to the sub?
Yes, that's what we were able to confirm.
And so you're saying he's in violation because he owes them a supplemental amount of that equaling $141,000, and he's going to be penalized as a result of that. Is that?
Well, specifically, in response, and which is included in the board report, he states that a check that he wrote to them was voided.
I see. So he did pay them, and then there was some action that happened subsequent to that payment to them.
So that payment never actually occurred.
And he gets violated for that?
Yes.
The payment didn't get to them.
Okay, so, and he did not do it. I guess it doesn't matter why he didn't do it. He just didn't do it for whatever the reason.
He said it was due to the back charges. He was assessing them, but our contract doesn't allow for that.
Okay, so there's been no new information that he shared with us in his testimony before the board that Con Ed didn't already know. You knew everything that has occurred. He shared with us some of his challenges. Has he ever done work with us before? Is this his first contract with us?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Avenue 26 in the East LA area? You've done that. This is your second contract with us. So this is your second time doing business with us. And what year was it that you did the work on avenues? Oh, at the same time. So when was this work done, Mrs. McGlinchey?
This particular project, contract was executed September 8th, 2014, and completed June 2nd, 2015.
14 and 15. So it seems, though, at the same time, he had two projects from us, that they were around the same time. So for all intents and purposes, his orientation and doing work with us really unfolded all at the same time. So he's really not been a person who has had a history heretofore of really having worked with us before. And even though we do our diligence in giving the appropriate information to prime contractors, so here for the first time, he has had some underperformance on some critical issues that are some violation. And even though ignorance of the law is no excuse, it does appear that this is his first time in dealing with us, and he needs to be a little more diligent. We do technical assistance, and I don't know, it's not, I guess, not our responsibility to provide on our own additional technical assistance, but it's clear that he needs some additional technical assistance, because what I'm hearing from you is that when there was a change in the contract agreement, that what is in order is a change order to us from him. And it's obvious that even though we briefed him of that when this crisis occurred, his organization failed to submit a change order to us. And that seems to be the problem here. He does seem to want to do, based upon his testimony, the appropriate thing, but it's clear to me that he doesn't understand the complexities of our requirement for submitting and reporting. And I know that you go over it, and I guess we need to underscore it. And I do understand what, as my president has said, what has occurred here. The intent, if we look at the intent, it does not appear to me at this point that it was originally his intent to violate us, even though I'm not arguing that he did not. But it appears that it was not his intent at this point, is all I can say from my observations.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. A couple of things that concern me. One, Ms. McGlinchey, the requirements that we have to meet here are not just city requirements. This is a federally funded project. So we have to meet the federal government requirements. And if we don't do so because we want to side with a prime that we may want to provide an accommodation to, we put risk on the city taxpayer for future projects and for reimbursement on this one, correct?
Correct, and that's it. The city expends the funds first and then gets reimbursed after the fact, as, you know, when we've obtained these federal funds. So we've already made the expenditure. It's simply getting our money back. Sure. And failure to properly monitor and execute the contract, that jeopardizes that full reimbursement.
And the $15,000 that represents the this hardy landscape amount that wasn't paid, the reason that that is an assessed penalty is because the city paid for it.
Correct.
And so they're not going to, the city is not going to pay the prime for work that wasn't done or wasn't reimbursed to Hardy at that point. That stays in the prime's coffers. Understood. Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you. Linda, thank you for that and all the testimony. You know, colleagues, where I'm at on the change order process, that's a core competency of contractors. And I'm reluctant about giving consideration on the fact that there wasn't a change order request when that is a standard practice. When there's any deviation between what a prime is doing and what needs to be done, I don't think a verbal agreement is ever in order here too. So because of that, number one, and any implications it might have for us receiving or being in good standing with federal standings is a great motivator for us to understand that and make our decision accordingly. So
thank you, Commissioner Jacinto. Anything further? Commissioner Rivas.
Yeah, I agree about the first issue with Tree Smith. It seems like the only thing that didn't happen was we didn't receive a change order that we should have, right? And then everything would have been fine in terms of that issue, right? The first one?
If they didn't want to give them some of the clear and grub work, yes.
But if that could have been resolved through a change order, right?
Potentially.
If
I
it was
can't really
approved-
speak for engineering on that. But
If BOE approved it, right? Assuming
Yes.
they did. Okay, I'm just trying to understand. And then the second one, I think at first I thought that the prime was withholding this, which is about 10%, until we paid him, right? Is that the case?
that's what he claimed, yes. But
But now it seems like it's changing, like we have paid him and we want to, but he hasn't paid the subcontractor?
well,
I guess and we're
we
waiting to get
confirmed
reimbursed,
we
right?
confirmed a certain payment amount, and he has stated that the reason it was less than the full amount listed was because he completed the work. So he substituted himself, which we will not get paid. However, he also said that he wrote a check to that subcontractor and then voided it.
Okay, but during his comment, he said if we were, he would just pay the $15,000, that he was not,
He's
not like appealing that or in any way, right? But he's just waiting for us, the city, to
He
pay.
did say that, which doesn't.
Okay, 'cause I just thought it was conflicting.
It doesn't quite. It doesn't. It's inconsistent with what we know, and what he himself said that they thought about doing a substitution and they decided to do the work themselves.
Isn't it true that that's against the federal regulations on?
Absolutely.
Thus the penalty. I mean, you can't.
Correct.
We had that discussion. You can't put that risk of bookkeeping on the sub. That goes on the prime, pursuant to the federal regs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in either circumstance, the sub should have been paid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, I just want to say, obviously, there's never a time when we are not going to work with either local government or the federal government for that matter, and I'm clear about that. However, I also want to say on the other side of the table, we do these technical assistance information sessions to every prime contractor that gets a contract with us, and we go over everything. And time again, I want prime contractors to succeed because we are partners with them, and I want them to make money because that's what people are in business for, and I want to see them do well. And time again, I see prime contractors come, some of whom, like I believe that this young man is sincere, and yet there are some technical difficulties that somehow they did not embrace or grasp that we gave them. And I would love to see the association to help these prime contractors be able to do better business with us, and I see it as a task of administrative skill that needs to take place, being able to respond appropriately and regularly in terms of giving us these change orders that we need. I'd love to see the contractor community sharpen the skills that they need to do business successfully with the city. We don't want to, in any stretch of the imagination, to have prime contractors do business with the city and go out of business. That's never our intent. And yet we already know that our judicial responsibility in overlooking and seeing the money of the city and our responsibility in general to respond on the best interest of the city is going to be there strongly. We're going to do that. That's a given. But I do have this concern that I would love to see some of our prime contractors who come before us have more technical assistance, of which they are going to have to take responsibility for, because the contract ad gives you that session when you get a contract. But I'm seeing time and time again, prime contractors come before us and say that they didn't know that they were supposed to give these change orders to one agency or another, whether it be con ad or engineering. So one time, months ago, I said that every prime contractor ought to have an administrator within their organization that has the responsibility singularly to be accountable for all of the forms that need to be filled out. They have several tasks that they have responsibilities for, and it's overwhelming perhaps. So again, I just use this as an opportunity to say that my hope is that we can help prime contractors sharpen the skills. It's not the responsibility of our bureaus, but it's certainly my concern when I look at the health of our contracting community. So we have to make a decision responsibly, as we always will, but I could not let this opportunity go by without taking it as an opportunity to talk to our prime contractors who I care about their success and hope that they will indulge a little deeper in organizing their companies in a way that they get the help they need to succeed. And filling out those forms is the stumbling block to success for a lot of our prime contractors that present before us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. At this point, I would make a motion that we adopt the recommendation from the Bureau of Contract Administration. Is there a second by Commissioner Jacinto? Any objection? Without objection, that'll be the order. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send it forthwith. Thank you all. Agenda item number 6 regarding the Bureau of Engineering, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to execute the three-party project oversight agreement for the Century Boulevard extension between Grape Street to Alameda Street project, along with any future revisions to the project oversight agreement. Mr. Mungra on agenda item number 6. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. My name is Ramnik Mungra with Bureau of Engineering Street Program. This is Century Boulevard extension project, which extends from Grape Street to Alameda Street, is part of the Jordan Down urban planning, urban village plan. We received the bids on this project on November 9th. This project, part of the construction budget, has multiple funding sources, including Federal Highway Administration, FHWA fund source, and also Community Development Block Grant, which is CDBG, part of the HUD money. And because we are mixing, not mixing, but various funding sources for same contract, we're utilizing various funds. We have different requirements from each funding sources. For example, for HERD requirements, we are supposed to perform additional outreach and as part of the preferential hiring process, as opposed to FHW, they do not have any restriction. And because of these additional requirements, FHW has designated this project as a project of division interest, which is basically requires additional agreement, and in that it assigns the duties or assigns as to specific responsibility as to who's going to do what as far as watching out for the funds to make sure it's not more than they're supposed to be getting. For example, we're supposed to provide initial report which states that the bids are not more than what there should have been if we had we not mixed the contracts, or had we not have these additional requirements as far as the geographical preference for hiring. For that reason, we need an agreement, project oversight agreement with FHWA, Caltrans, and CD. And therefore, this three-way agreement, staff recommends that the board authorize the city engineer to sign three-party project oversight agreement along with any future revision to this project oversight agreement.
Thank you, understood. Any questions at all on number 6? I don't have any questions either. Commissioner Santos made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 6. I'll second it. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 6. Any issues sending number 6 forthwith? We will send number 6 forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8 is an oral report continued from Monday a week or so ago. Our quarterly oral report on city trees in the public right-of-way from the Bureau of Street Services and Mr. Tyson this morning.
Morning, President James, commissioners, Bureau representatives, city attorney, and executive officer. I'm going to start off with speaking about our emergency response in the month of November. In the month of November, the Bureau received 593 requests for emergencies, and all were completed, and the turnaround time was less than 1 day. And now, the reason why I bring this up is, I know President James is aware because he was in all the emails last weekend when we had our little windstorm. And during that windstorm, we received over 560 emergencies, which is more than we received in the entire month of November. All of that has been cleaned up as of this morning, except 2 locations. It's now starting another emergency event. So, really proud of the division. They were able to handle as many emergencies in a 7 to 8 day period as they did in a whole month. Not that during the month of November they only did emergencies, but when they only have that many emergencies, then we get a lot of other work done, as well as stumps, tree removals, pending trimming. As I have in the budget last year, was awarded 2 crews, a trimming crew and a removal crew that we are slowly putting together, and that all boils around hiring. So the division, the Urban Forestry Division, has currently cleared both the tree surgeon and the tree surgeon supervisor 1 list. There are no more employees to hire. That is why a month and a half ago, which was a couple months before that, we started the process for the tree surgeon exam to be administered. Today was one of the days. Obviously they're not having the exam today due to rainfall. But the division is trying to simultaneously have all these things happen so that we don't lose out in our hiring ability before maybe a freeze happens or something to this aspect. As the division needs, at least we hired 4 supervisor 1s that were on the list, and I still have 10 positions that are open. And that's why we need the test to be given so we can create a new list, and all of those supervisors will come from the tree surgeon pool, which then means I need to hire additional tree surgeons to fill those positions. So hopefully if we can get the tree surgeon supervisor 1 exam going real quick, everything will happen the way I'd like to see before the window closes. And then the crews that I'm trying to make, I'll have the employees, and we'll work with the equipment we have borrowing and rating equipment from each other's divisions until the equipment that is in the budget will show up someday in the near future that has been ordered with for those crews. When I go to the on-demand services, which is $1 million this year, and what that is out of our tree trimming budget, $1 million was taken out so that the division could do tree trimming on demand for all the council districts so they could have trees trimmed where they would like them done. As of today, we've trimmed over 4,480.
No, Tim, I'm going to interrupt you on this. You know, I would love to see an increase in city forces to do even more of this work that you're describing. Go ahead.
And I agree, because we can do
We're,
it.
we're fighting to get there, but go ahead.
And I think that the last couple of years where we did the on-demand, and I kind of spearheaded it in the beginning, and now I'm over all of it, which my superintendents are running, because it was only $500,000 the first couple of years, really showed the city councilmen and women that we can do this. And when I explain to you where I'm going here, you'll see why. As of right now, with that $1 million, which is $66,666 per CD, council office, I'm sorry, we've trimmed 4,487 trees. They have additionally removed 18 stumps and 45 trees. We try to have them just trim trees with the money, and once they get near the 60,000 mark, then they have some other things they'd like to do too. So it lowers a few of the trees that we might end up trimming. But after all is said and done, the average cost per tree right now is $134. And that's a good cost for everyone. President James, you asked me about a board report for recycled water. I don't have a board report for you yet, but I can explain to you why. All of our equipment, the hookups that are on the trucks in order to hook up to the recycle facilities all have to be changed. So right now we're looking into the cost.
So that's a retrofit cost?
Yes, sir. And for planting trees, it's really a doable thing. But you asked me about, the Bureau and street sweeping. That's a whole nother issue, and it's really big.
Well, we're working on a lot of street sweeping overhaul issues, starting with attaching GPS to the street sweeping. I mean, that's a start. It's a great starting point, but there's a lot to do there.
Yes, and we're moving forward with all those types of looking into getting cost, figuring out what we need to come back to present to you. Also, our technology upgrades. Currently, the division employs the use of 27 Samsung Galaxy tablets, and I've presented before you numerous times on quarterly reports that I even now am a great advocate for these tablets, and I want more. We need more for the division. It's every one of these tablets is like today, where they're out there doing emergencies. It's real time. They can put the information at the site that they were there, and it comes up as a pending location now. It's been secured. It's safe. All these things are so we have a real-time answer to everything that's going on, and it makes it really transparent for everyone too. So I have requested for the division 23 additional tablets. As you well know, I just stated I need 10 more supervisors. And in the meantime, while we are waiting for that to be administered, I am going to be requesting emergency appointment interviews for tree surgeons to tree surgeon supervisor 1 status. That way we can move them into the position, start training them, and hopefully they will even do better when the exam comes out. That's what we are supposed to do, is enhance everyone's ability to promote. UFD contracts, as you all know, today was two of the contracts for 16-17 for the street light assessment funding. And I want to thank you for moving that forward to opening it up for bids. Our 8 multi-year and 1 single-year Council District 11, all the others are 3-year contracts. They call it the contract year with options years 1 and 2, which was never been done before in the division, and it was quite an undertaking. And I just want to let you know that right now the contracts from 15-16 are nearing their end, and we're coming into the 16-17 contracts. And the 16-17 contracts should be done right at the end of 16-17, and maybe into May, June, somewhere in there, 17. But we will, on the 3rd year, be utilizing the funds for the same year the trees are being trimmed in 17-18. And we will finally reach the point where that's happening, which hasn't ever happened before. And so with that, also, in the year 17-18, before it starts, we have to start rewriting 3 more years worth of contracts. It's many, many trees. The current sidewalk repair program, bid package 18, bid package 20, bid package 23. All of these bid packages, the Bureau tree surgeon supervisors have to inspect all the locations for the BOE, the access request, and the now rebate request. We do all the inspecting whenever there's a tree-related issue. Contract administration goes out, they do their inspection. If they determine there's a tree issue, then it comes to us. And we're ahead on the Urban Forestry Bureau Street Services packages as far as forestry goes and inspecting. However, since the launch on December 1st of the sidewalk rebate program, we have already received 75 requests that have made it to us for inspection. So we can see that this is going to be going in leaps and bounds. Therefore, we're going back to why I need the supervisors, and that's why we're going to go ahead and move forward with emergency appointments until that can happen. But make no mistake, we're keeping pace with it. The Urban Forestry Division is ahead of the special projects in their work. And we feel real confident that we can continue this and make it like regular everyday business. So I know there's a lot more things I could talk about, but that's a brief update on the most important items I believe that need to be talked about today.
Great, thank you, Tim. Commissioner Jacinto?
Thank you. Just a quick thank you, Tim, for that great report, especially as the inspections now for the sidewalk repair program, it's going to implicate, if you will, a lot of trees that have some interplay with the sidewalk. And so to get out there to determine the fact that we want a safe canopy, I think that is, we agree that as our goal, and thus the inspections to see how we can do that, such an important part to retain our canopy and, remove where we need to, but keep that canopy. So thank you, Tim.
Thank you, sir. Anything further? I don't have anything. Thank you, Tim, for the update. Have a good weekend. I will just comment that through the last wind event that we had 2 weeks ago,
Right.
the response that you all were able to make was, from where I sit, terrific. I mean, things were responded to very quickly. I don't think I had any complaints that made our way, and only heard of success stories along the way. And I had mentioned it, you've probably seen the emails, to Greg Spots and to Nazario and everybody complimenting them. And I met with Greg and said, whatever you guys did this time seemed to work really well. And he had described some differences that you all were able to make based on technology, a few other things. So hopefully that continues going forward. I know a rain event's a bit different than a wind event.
Yes.
But at least for the wind event, we seem to have hit a sweet spot on response.
What I'd like to say is we've learned how to collaborate a lot better with street maintenance and make these things happen in a more organized manner. So when we do have the events, everybody's waiting to get the call saying, let's pull all the resources together. There will be a Street Talk article about it coming up. Like I said, we had 560 emergencies in a 3-day period, and as of yesterday, all were cleaned up but 2. We wanted to be prepared for this next event. So we had more emergencies in a 3-day period than we did the whole prior month. So
We just had some big ones.
We did.
Sunset Boulevard example, a couple in Westwood that you guys were able to get to really quickly and get traffic flowing again on a major artery. So
I was at home on the phone.
all right,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
The oral report will be received. Mr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.